The room was cheap, that much was obvious. The wallpaper sagged like drooping eyelids, its faded pale yellow stained with years of grime. A single light bulb swung loosely, its faint glow doing little to push back the weighty darkness. Against one wall sat a battered armoire, its mirrored surface spiderwebbed with cracks, reflecting multiple distorted images of a bed with sheets crinkled into chaos, as if the last person who laid upon them had been caught in a desperate fight. And on the floor, a pool of blood drying in jagged maroon streaks like a map leading to nowhere. Detective Roarke knelt beside the stain. He'd been chasing this killer for months, and now it seemed he was always a step too late, arriving at scenes like this one. A rented room with no personal touch, no trace of life other than the horror left behind. It was thick, sticky still, fresh. Roarke knew better. Nothing was random here. This killer wasn't mindless. No, this was something much sharper, much colder. Roarke could feel it. This killer had purpose. Behind him, Officer Tremblay poked her head through the doorway. Witnesses reported hearing a scuffle around midnight, followed by someone running.
You see the face?
No, just a dark hoodie and gloves, no features visible. And these rooms had nothing resembling security cameras.
Send uniformed officers to canvass the area. Look for anything overlooked, a footprint, a piece of fabric, something small. This has got to break sooner or later.
Miles away, the killer sat on the floor of yet another rented room. This one was smaller, cleaner. It wasn't the type of place where roaches traded whispers in the wallpaper. Here, the bedding smelled of bleach, and the television sprouting from its cheap stand hung lifelessly on a wall painted an achingly bright white. Leaning against the edge of the bed, Caleb adjusted the wrappings on his knuckles. They were bruised, swollen from the night's exertions. He could feel the shadow of the blows he'd inflicted, trailing along every corner of his soul. Caleb hadn't chosen this path for pleasure, but for purpose. Somewhere deep in the maze of his memory was the boiled-over fury of betrayal. The earliest betrayal, a father's drunken fists. Then the betrayal of survival, fighting for scraps. Caleb had learned how villains were made, built slowly, molded from violence. The first hint of confrontation came near dawn. Roarke, running on adrenaline cut with exhaustion, had spotted Caleb weaving through the alleys of industrial yards in the city's fringes. Caleb hadn't expected that, hadn't planned on the detective hounding him so closely. Panic wound sharp strands into his instincts. He rushed forward, dodging through an old chain-link fence battered with signs warning of trespass. Beyond it was a stretch of shipping containers stacked like blocks, their towering walls narrowing the pathway between them. Roarke closed the distance fast, his lungs pounding like war drums, his gun drawn but held low, his shoulders squared for the fight he knew was coming. Caleb veered suddenly, ducking behind one of the metal crates, and when Roarke turned the corner to follow, Caleb caught him with an elbow to the temple. It felt like thunder striking his skull, bright and dizzying. Roarke stumbled but regained balance quickly, swinging his forearm upward to block the knife now arcing down in Caleb's other hand. The blade glanced off Rourke's arm, scratching the fabric of his jacket. The fight was brutal. Caleb moved like he'd been sculpted by combat, his motions fast, dense, tactical. But Roarke had experience. Blocking, shoving Caleb backward, twisting his arms until the blade finally clattered to the ground. They collided hard, scrambling in packs of brutal, chaotic blows. Roarke seized him by the lapel of his jacket and slammed him onto the pavement.
Stay down!
You have no idea what you're protecting.
Roarke froze, only for half a beat, before slapping cuffs around Caleb's wrists. Roarke hauled Caleb to his feet, forcing him toward the exit. He had dozens more questions. He knew there was purpose beneath the horror. But for now, Roarke breathed through the weight of exhaustion. Roarke watched them lead Caleb away, the flashing lights painting the pre-dawn gloom in streaks of red and blue. He had dozens more questions to ask. Days needed to unlace the knots of Caleb's motivations, his history, his patterns. You have no idea what you're protecting. The words echoed cold and sharp against the relief of the capture. He knew there was purpose beneath the horror. But for now, Roarke breathed through the weight of exhaustion settling into his chest. At least tonight, the rented room would stay empty.